Nigeria's external reserves lost $610 million in November 2021. House of Representatives to investigate 2.8 trillion naira owed federal government. Oil prices rise on expectation of OPEC Plus supply cuts as stock market investors worry about OMICRON. And on the program today, we turn our attention to the virus OMICRON COVID-19 variant and its impact on the economy. The program, of course, is Business Express, and we're reaching you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Liakatun Baba today. Good morning, and we begin the business of the day by informing you that Nigeria's external reserves fell by $610 million last month. Figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria on Thursday revealed. The reserves dropped to $41.22 billion as of November 29 from $41.83 billion on October 29. The CBN also disclosed that at the present level, the external reserves could meet the country's 9-month import demand. Figures show that the reserves, which had gained $5 billion in October, returned to a downward path in November. The reserves increased from $36.78 billion on September 30 to $41.83 billion as of October 29. Meanwhile, still with the central bank, data from there also show that total currency in circulation in Nigeria hit an all-time high of 2.97 trillion naira as of October 2021. At 2.9 trillion naira, currency in circulation is 128.9 billion naira higher than the 2.837 trillion naira recorded in September 2021 and 467 billion naira higher than what was recorded in October 2020. Total currency in circulation has risen by about 2 trillion naira since November 2018 and has remained above this level since then. Now, a report said to have emanated from the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NAITI, alleges that oil and gas companies owe the federal government more than 2.6 trillion naira. These raised eyebrows at the House of Representatives, prompting it to launch an investigation. The investigation, to be handled by an ad hoc committee, is to enable it identify companies involved, the actual amount after account reconciliation, and to ensure that monies recovered are channeled to budget.
2.6 trillion. It's a lot. It's a lot, sir.
Now, a golden opportunity comes for Nigerian female entrepreneurs and importers as 50 million women speak open an avenue showcased made in Nigeria products and services in Abuja. Momsodemen Ati reports.
From all over the country, women have converged at the Federal Capital Territory with diverse goods and services to form networks and promote their businesses. The Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Talent, represented by the Director General, National Center for Women Development, assured women of the ministry's efforts to encourage and boost their businesses.
Women are the driving force of the economy. We don't want to leave anybody behind. Most of our women they don't know how to use internet to do business. Hence this trade fair. They are all here under one platform so that they can be encouraged, so that they can be taught on how to go on internet to make their businesses easier.
With this fair is to be able to empower the women due to the COVID-19, pandemic, a lot of businesses have been affected, but we just looked at it that as usual when we have this fair, they usually come and they make sales. They are able to bring out their wares at discounted rates. So we want to achieve financial support and improvement by the fair.
The event is a 4-day affair open to female entrepreneurs, women in agriculture, fashion, science and technology, among others.
This Wednesday, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) confirmed the first cases of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 in the country. Just as on Tuesday, the U.S. also recorded its first case. It seems the virus listed as a variant of concern is spreading fast. Meanwhile, uncertainty has plagued markets. For instance, stock markets have been bleeding this week and commodities are not doing well either. Countries are tightening restriction rules. How bad is the situation and what happens to economic recovery? We'll be getting perspectives from Lukman Otunuga, senior market analyst at FXTM, who joins us from London. Hello, Lukman. It's always a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And how is the weather out there this morning?
Well, it's unforgivingly cold. This is a winter season in the United Kingdom, so everybody's indoors. We're talking about 0 degrees temperature. If we're lucky, we might see some snow in a few weeks as well.
Oh, great. We're here battling with the Hamilton winds and dust, but it's okay. Now, can you speak to us on how the new strain will be affecting trade and commerce, especially with new travel restrictions coming in from countries?
Yeah, certainly. For now, as you said earlier, uncertainty remains the name of the game. Much remains really unknown over the new variant. Markets are still questioning, whether it's more contagious, whether it has more impact to make people more seriously ill, whether it is strong enough to actually overcome the vaccinations that we've seen across the globe. And this extreme levels of uncertainty have actually fostered a sense of caution across the globe. Already, we've seen more than 40 countries impose travel restrictions to Africa, and the ones that have really hurt Nigeria are the ones from China, Indonesia, and even Canada, among other countries. This is a big deal. I think we've already had a taster of how COVID-19 could negatively impact the commerce and trade when we saw earlier in this year and last year. And if the Omicron proves to be as bad or even worse, this extreme levels of uncertainty may not bode well for Africa and Africa's largest economy, Nigeria.
Okay, now something of concern now is the recovery path. A lot of predictions show that the global economy will be recovering, but then these projections now are being sort of put in jeopardy with this new trend. How will this be affecting the recovery journey?
Certainly, before the Omicron menace, I'll call that, made their appearance, there was a sense of optimism over the global economy returning back to stability. 2022 was posted to be a year of normality, of growth returning. And this was based around the fact that we had these vaccines that were spreading across the world that were counteracting the original COVID-19. But with the Omicron variant, the new virus in town, sabotaging the scene, this opens a can of worms to so many things that could happen. We saw supply side disruptions, the tourism industry in some major economies, business sentiment taking a hit, investors adopting a risk-off approach, and many more other things, especially looking at Nigeria. So even before the Omicron made an appearance, we saw that growth predictions for Nigeria were ranging around 2.5% to 3% this year. But if the Omicron rolls over into 2022 and uncertainty becomes the name of the game, this could really hamper Nigeria's growth forecast, especially when considering how the Omicron has really punished oil prices, the lifeblood of Nigeria.
Now, of course, you just pointed out all these factors about this new strain of virus in town. And yes, commodity exporters like Nigeria and many other African countries are already facing bans, as you have also pointed out earlier. Are there implications? And if yes, what sort of implications are we going to likely witness this December? It is the last month of the year.
Certainly, earlier you already said about the foreign exchange reserves dropping, and the biggest issue here for Nigeria is the fact that China has already banned Nigeria, and we know that when it comes to exporting, Nigeria exports to China mineral fuels, oil, distillation products. But what makes things even more painful for Nigeria is that if these exports fall, at the same time, if oil prices fall due to the negative impacts of COVID-19, this could really hit external reserves, and we could see a vicious cycle of the Naira finding itself under renewed pressure, government reserves, government earnings, export earnings falling, something that could negatively impact Nigeria as it continues its fragile recovery for 2021. It's still early times. I said earlier, investors, markets, everyone's still trying to gauge how badly the Omicron variant is. But, if the worst case scenario is true, and this is a variant that could result in, more lockdowns across the world and, really, really impact Nigeria's export earnings, this may be reflected in GDP, not only in 2021, but 2022.
Oh, wow. So how expedient is it for a permanent solution to be found?
The truth about this case is, if we could have found a solution, we would have already found a solution already. And the biggest issue or fear is that the Omicron may show a strong resistance to the vaccines that have been distributed across the globe. Now, if this becomes a theme where we see in 2022 more different types of variants, other than Omicron, showing a strong resistance to the vaccines, the world economy could find itself back where it was last year, where it was world on lockdown. But let's see how things play out.
Okay, now before I let you go, lastly, yes, there's a whole lot going on about the vaccines, their efficacy, and that whole industry. Do you see the world going into a total lockdown again with this new variant?
And this is a very difficult question, because you need to look at the human cost versus the economic cost. If the variant is spreading aggressively, like we see, in Europe and across the world, and it's really creating a lot of disruptions, hitting growth momentum, economies may have to go on lockdown. But when we're considering how the world economy is still nursing those deep wounds inflicted from COVID-19 last year, the question is, can the world handle another lockdown? Time will tell.
Okay, can the world handle a lockdown? I would like to leave the conversation here, Lukman. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
Do have a nice one.
You too.
Now, it was a red day in the Nigerian equities market on Wednesday, which was the first trading day of the month of December. Sell pressure persists. The oil share index lost 1.81% to close at 42,463.16 points, with market capitalization at 22.157 trillion naira. 335 million shares valued at 3.552 billion naira exchange hands in 3,891 deals. The financial services industry led the activity chart, with FBN Holdings, Universal Insurance PLC, and Zenith Bank the most active shares. Now, despite commencing the sale of its shares to the public, MTN Nigeria Communications PLC topped the decliners, chart shedding 10% at the end of the day's tradings. And those will be the opening figures this morning. And on the global scene, Omicron worries leave stock markets on edge, but Asian shares tick up Thursday. Buster Abel has global market update. Okay, so I'm told that report is not ready. We bring to you our Surviving COVID-19 series.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
And I am into oil seed processing. I heard about it in social media. I got like about 6.7 million. It has impacted my business positively. As you can see, the machineries I have, and I have an increase in working capital, which will translate to increase in profitability actually. Directly we engage like maybe 5 people, and indirectly about 30 people are benefiting from the business, which is very, very good. And everybody can go and apply and patiently wait. It's going to manifest and it's going to happen.
We are into aluminum fabrication and furniture making. CBN intervention as this, we were able to benefit from that, we were able to access 10 million naira in support to our business. Before we accessed the loan, we had about 9 staff, so we have up to 21 staff here at the moment.
I applied for TCF COVID-19 loan and I was able to get the sum of 500,000. The pandemic affected us seriously. As you know, there was no school, so everybody was staying at home. I use it to pay my teacher's salary, and I also use it to pay bills.
I assessed the loan, the total of 1,870,000 naira. The loan has really impacted my family business greatly. It has helped us to expand from 150 in terms of our capacity to 1,000, and that has really been awesome. It's also helped us to grow in the number of people that work.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank.
Oil prices surged on Thursday, recovering the previous day's losses on expectations that OPEC Plus may pause supply additions amid growing concern of the Omicron coronavirus variant spread. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained 0.7% to $66.05 a barrel by 0.14 GMT after a 0.9% fall on Wednesday. Brent crude futures were up 0.7% at $69.35 a barrel, having eased 0.5% in the previous session. Oil prices climbed as some investors anticipate that OPEC Plus will decide to maintain the current supply levels in January to cushion any damage on demand from the Omicron spread. Reuters quoted as saying Toshitaka Tazawa, an analyst at Fujitomo Securities, made these observations. OPEC Secretary General says in 2022 world oil demand is anticipated to increase by 4.2 million barrels per day, unchanged from last month's forecast. World total demand in 2021 is now pegged at 96.4 million barrels per day and at 100.6 million barrels per day in 2022, surpassing pre-pandemic levels. He stated this at the 57th meeting of the Joint Technical Committee via video conferencing. Barkindo noted that in addition to the new Omicron variant, COVID-19 cases continue to rise in other regions, particularly in Europe, and the subsequent restrictions and lockdowns are resulting in decreased consumption of transport fuels. Other demand-related uncertainties include trade tensions, ongoing supply chain backlogs, potential adverse weather conditions, and evolving energy policy changes. For 2022, non-OPEC supply growth is forecast at 3 million barrels per day from an average of 66.7, also unchanged from last month. Gold prices eased on Thursday as investors gauge the U.S. Federal Reserve's response to inflationary risk amid the new Omicron coronavirus variant. A look at other commodities. Okay, so I'm told Bosley Abel is now ready on the global scene where Omicron worries leave stock markets on edge, but Asian shares tick up this Thursday. Let's get the full details from Bosley Abel.
Global stocks appear to be struggling to regain momentum amid continuing uncertainty around the risks posed by the new Omicron COVID variant first spotted in South Africa last week. U.S. stock index futures rose in early morning trading on Thursday, following a Wednesday tumble on Wall Street after the first case of Omicron variant in the US was confirmed. Futures contracts tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 245 points. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.87%, while Nasdaq 100 futures added 0.65%. Stocks in Asia Pacific struggled for direction in Thursday trade as concerns over the economic impact of the Omicron COVID variant continue to weigh on investor sentiment. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rose 0.49% as of its final hour of trading. Shanghai Composite falling fractionally to 3,573.84. The Nikkei 225 in Japan declined 0.65% to close at 27,753.37. European stocks are expected to open lower on Thursday as concerns persist over the Omicron COVID variant. The UK's FTSE index is seen opening 80 points lower at 7,086. Germany's DAX 176 points lower at 15,295. France's CAC 40 down 91 points at 6,797. Trade in Africa also expected to be low with the impact of the variants. Boss De Able, Business Express.
Now, thank you, Bosse. The weather is now cold. The dust haze is all over the northern part of the country. In fact, NIMET has issued warnings of low visibility and how to keep safe when the hazard signs show up. But then, the Omicron variant of the virus is one that has left the world with so much concern. And because these concerns have not been fully addressed, you may have to keep to the safety protocols. Wash your hands, use face mask, sanitize your hands. It can never be too much while we combat this virus. But then the year is wrapping up. We all should remain positive and stay safe out there. We've come to the end of this edition of Business Express, and it is the one before we close the week. But then remember to keep in touch with us, so do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Your mails are highly appreciated. You can catch up with us also on YouTube. All previous episodes are available there on the NTA's channel. We return tomorrow at 3 p.m. for another episode. My name is LIQUIDITY Babatunde. Don't forget to be safe out there. God bless Nigeria, and do have a very, very productive day.